Restream. Hello, Restream. How are you? YouTube should be popping up here pretty soon. And I'll join up on LinkedIn here to make sure we're broadcasting live. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Steel Guys. It's April 1st. There'll be no April Fools here. We have one people that we listen to that usually do an April Fools. And somehow all they did was substitute the person reading.
Yeah,
And then that became
real.
the
That was real tricky.
All right, Scott Glenn. Let me welcome in Scott Glenn here real quick. Hello, Scott Glenn. What's going on out there?
Well, it's just another day in paradise. Just lots of stuff going on in the world, and just looking forward to just kind of getting together and facilitating a conversation of how it all is affecting the supply chain of metals. Welcome, everybody, and hopefully,
The
we
people
can
that we
all
listen to that usually do an April
gather
Fools.
in conversation.
Restream. Hello, Restream. How are you? So,
Oh, you're
so that's what
replaying.
we do here. We facilitate the discussion about the supply chain of metals. We kind of try to bring in the last seven. We do this every 7 days, so the last 7 days of information that we can gather, we kind of put together, talk about it a little bit, and encourage you to, if you're watching on LinkedIn or YouTube or X platforms, just feel free to chat. I don't know if the X platform comes into the should, I guess. Never tested that, but anyway, the YouTube. So you can always get our subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Steel Guys. It's at The Steel Guys, or Jim Glenn at III. Jim Glenn the third is our broadcast link on the LinkedIn channel. You can hop on any one of those. So look forward to subscribing. They'll you know how the LinkedIn works. It kind of shows up if you're online. It'll show up. It'll if you've registered, it'll pop it in your notifications. But that's kind of a week by week basis. But if you go to the um, YouTube channel and subscribe to our channel, it will and ask for notifications. It'll pop up whenever we have one. I don't know if it pops up when we actually schedule it or and then again an hour before or something like that, or if it's just when it goes live. I'm not sure how that works.
I'm not either.
Anyway,
But if you follow us, subscribe, and all that kind of stuff, it certainly would be helpful for us, and hopefully it adds a benefit to you to notify you when we come on live here.
see, gotcha.
Yes.
So we had a little. There's been a apparently I don't know. I've experienced my servers are routing through somewhere where there's been an outage because I have a couple websites or a couple areas that I go to that experienced down outages here this morning. And I think they're 550 errors, an error 550, which indicates a server problem. So there's something going on out there, and which in turn slowed me down in getting some information for this show and getting prepared. But in addition to that, having a couple computer glitches this past week, which has taken a little while to get fixed up. So anyway, we're back in business, and here we are. Um,
Yeah, your computer glitch was, I don't know if you'd want to classify that as a glitch more than a huge hiccup, but whatever. You got it all fixed up. Hopefully you got it working right.
well, here we are. It's got at least this one's
Yeah.
working. We got sound.
Yeah,
Hopefully, all the
here.
sound's coming in good and everything's good. And you can see the
Yeah.
change in the background. Some of the our background, our layouts and things like that went changed up a little bit, but here we are. So anyway, the news of the week. It seems like again, what we've been doing this. It seems the news of the week is pretty much just either aluminum's just going higher each week, or the global supply disruptions from the conflict in the Middle East. Um, those are the two things that have been going on for weeks and continuing to go forward. Domestic prices on hot rolled coil again surging to probably not all time highs, but uh, so recent highs anyway.
Recent highs for sure, yeah, as well as aluminum pricing. I know that's a recent high as well. I mean, that's been going up pretty steadily, for
Again,
sure.
it's only a 4 year high. It's not an all time high. It's only been the last 4 years. 4 years ago, they were at this level.
Right.
So again, I don't know how that.
Yeah. And yeah, the cost of a barrel of oil shot up pretty high yesterday. It dropped down a little bit, but it's still up there at very high levels, which the cost of energy is going to affect everybody somehow. But we kind of talked about this a little bit last week, and hopefully that's just a temporary spike, and things will level off once the conflict gets resolved, if it ever will. But hopefully it happens sooner than later.
It will at some point, but hopefully it doesn't escalate any further before it does that.
Cor- Correct. Correct. Yeah. Yeah. The as we were kind of talking a little bit, ahead of this, going online, is that our conversations many years ago, we've talked about this in the past, used to be focused just on what was going on in the United States and how things affected things in the United States, but today is a whole different game. You got where the world has gotten a little smaller, if you will, and there's everything in the world affects everybody involved, and it's a it's a different time. So hopefully we can get it ironed out and get life back to some normalcy. But we'll see how
No
that
pun
goes.
intended on ironed out for the steel guys.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no pun intended, right?
No pun intended. Just we get them
Yeah,
ironed out though.
yeah. That's anyway. Prices seem to be escalating at all levels.
Well, one of the reasons
Scrap,
is
yeah.
number one note for our show prep notes are the steel imports into the U.S. have experienced a significant decline. So when the imports aren't coming in anymore, the domestic manufacturers, why is that? Well, they're going to say, well, we can't go to 110% of our mill capacity, so let's slow it down by increasing our prices a little bit, and they continue to do that.
Make hay while the sun shines, I suppose. Yeah,
Historically, supply and demand features, all the
yeah.
economics part of that seem to always run into that. And again, point number two is industrial metal prices, including aluminum and steel, have surged to multi-year highs due to global supply constraints impacting manufacturing. Again, global
Hmm.
supply constraints.
Right.
Another note here is that China has muted their economic growth, which was forecasted 4.8 in 2025 and 4.2 in 2026. And that's expected to weigh heavily on the global steel demand and negatively impact prices. So, again, that's the economic in energy, and that's the part of that energy costs and stuff like that. Who was it we read? The energy costs have been driven by increasing costs. The energy crisis, driven by increasing costs, has started to impact Asian steelmakers the most, with potential disruptions to production. So
Right.
I know that was one of the things in stainless steel a long time ago, when that Three Gorges Dam was being built or whatever in China. The cost of the kilowatt cost per hour or whatever, I forget exactly what that number is, but for some reason I remember it's like we were doing it for a cents on the dollar, and they were doing it for a dime, something like that. So, and energy is a big, the Chinese for a long time, anything that was labor intensive, they could command, um, because labor was cheap for them as opposed to the rest of the world. So, anything that was made with a lot of labor was usually made in China. But anything that had high electric costs, to make, which is steel, when you're melting steel and things, that had a tendency to add too much to their costs.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but when they built the dam, it kind of lowered their costs. So, again, I don't know I don't know how much energy goes into energy being oil. How much is oil? Is that in the steel business, or is that more of a consumer-driven products and things like that? I'm not sure.
I couldn't answer that question. And there is a portion in just about everything, but at the percentages, I couldn't really speak to that. Yeah, the one thing that I heard a discussion or read a discussion, I can't remember where it was, but the Strait of Hormuz. it's obviously a significant route for oil. But the discussion that I was listening to was pretty much saying that the United States doesn't rely on any oil coming through that channel. So it's not really affecting directly the United States, but it does directly affect other countries in that region. So
Well,
yeah, that's when
affects the global pricing.
right, it does affect global pricing, yes. But now you see like the UAE starting to take an interest in, getting that resolved over there more so than what they originally had put into the fight, if you will. So yeah, it's an interesting time. I don't know if anybody out there has any input that they'd like to share. We'd love to hear from you, but it's
And
an
we're here to
interesting thing. And then,
facilitate the conversation.
correct. Yeah, it's as you started out the conversation, it seems that some of these topics have been the top discussions for the past 3 to 4 weeks, and they haven't changed a great deal. But I guess at the end of the day, how it all is going to shake out is going to really kind of define how things move forward for the next period of time. I mean, it's going to be, we'll see how it all shakes out.
Yeah, I think one of the other bits of news that I saw that was interesting is the Mexico, down in Mexico, they've canceled permits for 350 steel importers, which is causing a ripple effect in the supply chains. So what does that mean? What is canceling permits for steel importers? I don't know. Was that? I kind of remember that China was kind of doing that, bringing in steel to Mexico and then either making stuff there in Mexico and then shipping it up finished, or just even bringing it in and then making it a Mexican product. Kind of and coming up. So I don't know what is that going to do to the Mexican market? Is it that again of 350? I don't know how many steel importers there are, but I can't imagine that there's more than that. I mean, how many
Well,
steel?
yeah, what I was gonna kind of ask that question is, the permits, what is that for individual manufacturers, or was that for, like trading companies, permits? I don't know what that actually means, but
I guess
nonetheless, 350 is quite a few,
yeah, it could be an end user too that imports steel. I don't know.
right? Right? Yeah.
Is it the
Well,
broker?
that's an interesting topic. We'll have to keep tabs on that one.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Mexico moved to cancel permits for 350 steel importers, causing ripple effects in regional supply chains. Yes, I don't know. Again, if you can't import steel, you have to buy it domestic. And how much capacity do they have in Mexico? Because they can't even get it from the United States. Because they can't import. If they don't have the permit, they can't import from anywhere, I guess.
Yeah, well, I guess that would somewhat mean that they're going to leave some permits open, and that would be, I suppose, who they're going to align with.
Yeah, and another case there, I'm not sure if it's affecting that or not. Is I don't know how much. Well, we don't have NAFTA anymore, but trade agreements between the United States and Mexico. I don't know if that's outside the purview of those permits or not. I don't know. Anybody out there know?
Ooh,
If you do, type it in the chat for us. Let us know. I'd like to
yeah,
get that
yeah,
question answered.
right.
Well,
Hmm.
today might be a short steel, guys. Here, I don't know. There's not much more on the. We didn't have again the news that we gathered. Do you have anything else that you've seen or heard or out in the world out there this week?
No, not really. The one thing that we talked about a little bit last week, I know that imports coming into the United States on flat roll, has reduced. I think the figure was somewhere in the area of like 30% or something. But I also did hear, I think we talked a little bit last week about, there's a fair amount of orders on the books that should start arriving in the near future. So I don't know if that number is going to come back up, and we'll have to keep an eye on what that does to pricing. So, but that's, I guess, a topic for another day, right?
or today if you want to.
Yeah. Or yeah, well, it is a topic. We just hadn't made it one. Yeah. No, but I don't have anything else specifically. Glad you got your system back up and running just in the nick of time there.
Yeah, which we had a little trouble posting our stuff, getting out of there, but hopefully this next week it'll be a little easier and better.
Yeah. Yeah.
Start one up. So our next one will be the April 8th at 10 a.m. Central Time.
Mm.
Um, right? I think
Yes. Yes.
everything's online for that. Let me just double check the schedule there to make sure that that's a doable time for us. We should have blocked that out around there, but yes, it looks like it is.
Yes. Okay. We
So
should
we're
be in
all
good shape for that. Hopefully, the word gets out there and people will join in and present some questions for the conversation or comments.
yeah. When I change desktops like that, does it change? Does the video still stay the same for you?
I don't see the video having changed.
Okay.
A couple of times you've changed it to me individually and you individually, but right now it's just you and I.
Right. Okay. I mean, it didn't go to. Okay, it's pulling from the still just pulling from that source over there. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Jim Glenn
Uh,
at steelrep.com with two N's on the Glenn. Scott Glenn, two T's, two N's. Scott Glenn at steelrep.com. Steelrep.com is our website. That pretty much gives you, our background, our information, our stuff that you need to know about getting hold of us and all the neat little details you can put on the interweb out there today.
yes. Yeah, and I'll throw in there too is if anybody wants to join us with a live presentation as a special event. If you've got something in the supply chain of metal that you'd like to discuss, be it transportation or fabrication or mining or material handling of sorts, just feel free to reach out. We'd love to set up an event for you to put it out there.
Share your expertise with the market here and see how people react and talk. You can get some discussion going around your position in the supply chain.
Yes, indeed. I don't have anything else, Jim. How about you?
That's it for today, I think. So
Okay. All right. Well,
yeah, see you guys April
yeah.
8th. Look forward to it. And
Thanks for joining in. Have a great day, everybody. And
yep.
I suppose, yeah, we'll end it at that.